It just keeps getting better for the Montreal Canadiens, as not only were the Norris votes revealed and Lane Hutson has an incredible finish, some quotes from Lane Hutson after his Calder win just have Habs fans absolutely locked in and fired up for what he is about to do next year. Oh, it just gets better every single day, but not just for him. Logan Mailloux gets an incredible nomination in the AHL that has us thinking that even his trade value or his future value for Montreal is way higher than I think some people anticipated after this playoff run. Plus a final note on Jonathan Toews and a recent article from Sportsnet that once again links him to the Montreal Canadiens. A bunch of stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, and we'll start with Johnny Toews, Jesse. Look, I know the Habs need a 2C. I don't think that's what Jonathan Toews is at this point. I think at the very least he'll get a PTO, and we'll see if he even makes a team. But again, the guy who's 60% on the dot his last year, defensively responsible, he'll find a roster spot somewhere. But in this recent Sportsnet article, they list 7 potential destinations for Jonathan Toews after his 2-year hiatus, and Montreal was right there among some other teams like Toronto and like the front-runner Winnipeg. Said Toews speaks French fluently. He's lived his entire hockey life from all his work at Team Canada to being captain of the Blackhawks in the spotlight. Yeah, there's some appeal to joining the NHL's oldest club as it tries to write a new chapter. And honestly, like, they say how Kirby Dach has a great relationship with Jonathan Toews, and they said, hey, could you consider Toews playing with maybe Dach and Demidov, or maybe Line Demidov? Jesse, again, looking at the lineup, thinking about Jonathan Toews, to me, straight up, I think it's very unlikely. I don't see this as a move that Kent Hughes will actually make unless it costs absolutely nothing and he shows a super great willingness to play here. What are your thoughts on the Jonathan Toews talk surrounding Montreal in particular?
Very unlikely that the grizzled vet does come over to Montreal. Just interesting, Josh, like, we're hearing the Freed bomb right now that, like, that Freeman, he's saying that, like, Kent is looking for more of, like, a younger, kind of like somebody for Demidov to grow with.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering, like, do you think, Josh, that, like, he's hinting that, like, Kent's going to go for, like, a little bit more of a younger guy at 2C than a vet? Like, is that what you take from that?
I mean, I take it as if he can, he will, right? The problem is which ones are available, but if he can, he will.
He definitely will. I think that's, definitely what the ideal plan is. I think that that's maybe an interesting takeaway from Freeman's comments there. But, with Jonathan Toews, that being said, it's a no. But I still think, like, relatively speaking, for his 37 years of age, that he's going to be good. Mm-hmm. I think he's only coming back if he thinks that he can make an impact. He's probably pretty good financially. He's done it all in the hockey world. If he's coming back, it's for the love of the game. And whenever he has been a part of it, for the large part, other than some injuries, he's just been absolutely fantastic. Like, I remember he was a huge reason why Team Canada got that gold at the Olympics. He's always just been a dear player to my heart for that reason. I obviously don't see him coming to Montreal, not the fit there, but at the same time, I don't want to bet against, him at least being a somewhat productive player once he's back.
Yeah, and I definitely don't bet against Kent Hughes considering a guy like Jonathan Toews. Again, you might as well consider everyone, but hey, I think Kent Hughes is probably considering about everything. Leave your thoughts on Jonathan Toews down below. Do you agree with us that it's very unlikely, or maybe you think that Jonathan Toews would be a great fit? We'd love to hear from you down below. But on to the hype session, Jesse, because, we're going to get into Lane Hutson in a bit because that is unbelievable, but we got to focus on Logan Mailloux right now. And look, after that playoff run, Laval getting smoked by the Charlotte Checkers on their way to the Calder Cup final, a lot of hate was spewed toward Logan Mailloux. And honestly, like, I don't want to say hate is well-deserved. I don't think hate ever is. But criticism of play, sometimes it is. And Logan Mailloux definitely did not have a great end to the playoffs. He had a good start to the playoffs, but he had a great season. And Habs fans are seeing, look, this is a bit of a problem. He was once seen as a guy that was pretty much a lock for the NHL. He's a big guy. Him versus Reinbacher. Reinbacher, I think at this point, seems like the more NHL-ready guy with some of the mistakes Mailloux made. But Jesse, he just made the AHL's top 24-25 top prospects team. They say, look, 22-year-old native of Bell River, completed his second pro season, 21 assists, 12 goals in 63 games. They finished first in the AHL. He was in his second straight All-Star game, 7 contests for the Habs this year. He had a fantastic year, and I feel like our intuition, because we pay attention to Laval, we watch this stuff, it's like, there's that recency bias of him playing pretty bad, but I feel like the hype for Mailloux is still absolutely there. Other teams are still noticing, and I feel like a lot of these negative sentiments toward him, while some of them are deserved for some of his decision-making, I still genuinely think he'll be a great player, and honestly, Jesse, I keep thinking about him increasing his value as a trade asset now that the playoffs are done.
I mean, this is some huge praise here. Like, being selected of one of only 2 defensemen in the whole of AHL to be the best future NHLers. Mm-hmm. And I know, like, the AHL is the league that's leading to the NHL, right? Again, like this is just some huge praise where we're seeing like this is not just labeling, like we knew he had that NHL ready talent, obviously offensively. We know the defensive shortcomings offensively there all the way, but to really label him as an impact player at that next level, I think is saying a lot, even though he had a little bit of a smaller, down year, for his production, more focusing on his defense there. Like, again, to still get this nod as only one of two, AHL defensemen, again, to project so highly, I think is this huge praise. Now, the question is, like, does Kent Hughes kind of want to use this as ammo? We know his value was already high leading into this. That being said, it's like, we still need those right-hand defensemen, Josh, right? Like, isn't that one of the things we're looking to address this summer? We're realizing what we have kind of in Mailloux. He kind of fits exactly what we need, except for being a little bit more of an offensive guy than defense first there. But at the same time, it's like, just once we get some good prospect, Josh, like, I don't know, I'm just not so quick to just get rid of them or trade them away, especially somebody like you can grow and really develop, over a long period of time.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, there's a couple of ways you could go with him because I still think he can be a good NHL player. And again, like, he got this nod, like you said, over a lot of other talented defensemen, not only on Laval, but on other teams, like over a guy like Reinbacher, right? Like, there's a reason that he got this. So if we need to hear your guys' thoughts, because Logan Mailloux, I think, still is held in quite a high regard in terms of a prospect in the NHL. So if we're talking to trade this offseason, maybe we're talking future on the Habs decor, I think he still should absolutely be in the conversation. But we'd love to hear your thoughts down below on this great honor from Logan Mailloux. But final thing, Jesse, it's time to get into Lane Hutson. Now, look, you thought we were done with this after the Calder? Absolutely not, because the big trophies, the big boy trophies, not for the kids, are coming out, sometimes for the kids, are coming out now. And of course, the Norris Trophy was revealed today. And look, Lane Hutson, I know, he went out there, he defied all expectations. He won the Calder. Where was he going to finish in the Norris vote? Look, I mean, he finished pretty highly among defensemen. I think he was 6th in points per game among defensemen this year, something like that. And look, I didn't think he was going to win, but Jesse, he finished 9th. He finished top 10. He finished above guys like Adam Fox, Evan Bouchard, Jake Sanderson. He even got a 3rd place vote, which is honestly incredible. 5 4th place votes, 22 5th place votes, which is, I think, the 7th most or 6th most, something like that. He honestly defied all expectations here, but it's not just that. It's not just that makes this better. He had some quotes after getting his Calder trophy. Look, he likes the feeling of winning, doing it in repeatable ways, the right way, wants me to help the team win, be a part of winning culture. I want to get faster, stronger, and really mentally get ready, focus, just find a way to bring my best every day. And honestly, it felt like that. He felt like he wanted to be on the ice when he was receiving his Calder trophy. I don't care. Fighting till the end was awesome. I still have to be playing now, but I'm definitely happy we got there, but I'm not satisfied with that. Everything he says, Jesse, turns to gold after winning the Calder in a landslide, finishing 9th in Norris voting, to him saying, yeah, that's just not good enough. I cannot believe how much hype I have for Lane Hutson for next year. The Lane train, I think, is going to run off the track soon. He's just going to terrorize every city he goes to.
I'm getting hyped up just hearing this quote right here. Like, can you ask for just like a better kind of quote from like your young star after an amazing season, just wanting more? Like, this is just music to Kent Hughes' ears, to Martin St. Louis, especially a competitor, right? Like, knowing that they want to start next year off time, that Lane Hutson there is doing the work. No surprise, he's hanging out there with some of the very best in the league. And as we noticed, like that list for the Norris, like, I mean, this is all impact players on their team, above a Jake Sanderson, just below a Jacob Slavin, a defensive stalwart, right? Like, the thing about Lane Hutson, though, is he's going to start getting – Corrine Haynes, shout out to her. She wrote a great article on this recently. We're saying, like, I totally agree with that. Hutson is going to be in this conversation very soon. Like, I see a world very – like, in the next couple years, within the next 2 years, where he's a finalist for the Norris. First year he's a finalist. First time he gets to be a finalist, he doesn't win it. But then the second time, all bets are off very early on. Now, we know Cale Makar had a commanding win, just like how Lane Hutson did, absolutely running away with it. But I believe that he can get up there with the Quinn Hugheses, with the Werenskis, with the Cale Makars, absolutely, given the historic nature of this star, Josh. And, like, it's important to note that when we're looking here at his DB, thank you for pulling up an amazing time there, it's that he only 6 goals out of his 66 points were goals. That's not to knock. That's to saying that, like, he's going to get a lot more goals next year. For me, you have to feel like this is a point of focus for him. Like, one thing that he's looking on next year is like, okay, I can get points, but how do I start doing it myself? Because, again, Lane Hutson, it's not an ego thing. It says, how do I benefit the team the most? And that's probably the one bottleneck in his game right now. He's looking to improve on that. And just imagine how that will impact the team that much more, not just having the playmaking from Lane Hutson, but really that goal scoring, that game breaking ability, which is really going to clearly translate into more wins for the Montreal Canadiens going forward.
For sure, faster, stronger, mentally getting ready, focused. I mean, if this was Lane Hutson not as mentally focused or physically ready as he's going to be, then I don't want it. No, I do want to see it. I don't want to know what other teams are thinking about that, because honestly, like, exactly that, Jesse. I think there's a real world where, in terms of points, he does get up there with the Quinn Hughes, the Cale Makars of the league. And honestly, being healthy, that's one of the biggest things too. I mean, honestly, Quinn Hughes, if he had played a full season, I think he could have won this award. But at the end of the day, Hughes missed over, I think it was 14 games, something like that. And then, Zach Werenski kind of fell off at the end of the year, and there was left with one clear front runner in Makar. Hutson, by all accounts, he's a gym rat, flexibility, all this stuff, stamina is incredible. Provided he doesn't get hurt, he's probably going to be playing 80 plus games every year. Stamina was one of the biggest things that we had for him coming out of college. So all the signs are pointing to him being right up there, being a finalist in the future, being top 10 now over Evan Bouchard, who's going to get a pretty massive extension. Pretty cool. But listen, leave your thoughts on all this down below. It gets better every day for the Habs, looking towards the future. Unbelievably excited. I hope you guys are too. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.